Hey, greetings everybody. Hopefully you caught the PGA breakdown piece that we put out earlier today. We're going to be having breakdown pieces for NASCAR, MMA, all of that as the week progresses. But we're lined up for another busy week here at DFSArmy.com, and I am your friend Chapadong, the senior editor, contributor, and coach of the website. And I'm going to bring you this little quick tip when it comes to setting up the domination station. One of the first things you can do in optimizers anywhere is see what the projections are going to tell you by default. See what the website that you're trusting is going to gravitate towards. Who do they like? Who don't they like? And then you can start formulating your own game plan as to whether you agree or disagree. As the week goes out here at DFS Army, we start looking forward to content articles. We start looking forward to, video casts, podcasts. We dig into research as those stations go live. And we're always looking for the quick time-saving cheat sheets that we can build directly off of if somebody doesn't have a lot of time. We can use those as confirmation for those of us that do digging on our own. We can use those for pretty much anything that we want, especially the time-saving aspect of diving right in. So as we're waiting for all of that stuff to pan out and start to, I guess, formulate thoughts and game plans, strategies, etc., we can run into our optimizer and do something really quick. Takes just a couple of minutes. We set the slate the way we want it. DraftKings Golf, you can do it for FanDuel as well. You might come down here and instead of messing with all of these things, how many uniques do I want? Tournament mode, optimal, all this stuff that everybody really starts questioning a little bit later in the week. Let's say we want to run it on, say, 50 lineups. You could do 100 lineups. You could do whatever you wanted. I wouldn't touch randomization if I want to see how the projections are going to play out at first. I would leave it completely unrandomized. I would leave it in optimal mode as well. I don't care necessarily about optimal versus tournament, whether I'm mixing or matching my players effectively, because this is just the first run. I would use, instead of one or two unique players, I might use a bunch. If I cut it down to four unique players as opposed to the normal two or three that a lot of us do, if you've heard us talk before, a tighter core of players will have fewer unique players in between the lineups. It will be mostly repeat players over and over and over again, three, four, five players, maybe swapping out a couple here or there. And that means that you get a lot of your lineups across the money line, or a lot of them fall short. They kind of move together as a unit or in a team. Coincident, or I guess conversely, you can broaden that out and spread out that core by forcing more unique players into your lineup, where you might only have two or three repeats, and instead you have three, four guys swapping in and out. That's what I'm going to do here because I want to see what the optimizer tells me it likes, tell me which players it's keying the hardest on. So I'm going to swap a bunch of uniques out so that it's only using the same guys over and over and over again. I'm not going to use any kind of an exposure max, and I'm just going to click off 50 lineups, and I'm going to see what it tells me raw, what it likes raw. This also helps me find some chalk, because what this optimizer likes, most of them around the industry will like, maybe a couple of players here or there will swap in and out. The next thing to tell you is that some people will do this where they set up their own thoughts and they do this in blocks instead of four uniques. They may run one unique or two unique players, and they may change the core of players that they like with the smiley faces, adjusting the projections, lock buttons, whatever it is that you want to do. So let's say in one particular lineup you want Bryson DeChambeau with Dustin Johnson and Abraham Answer, and you lock those three guys in primarily. Then you run that for 20 or 25 lineups, and now you want to maybe cap your exposure on them at 5% the rest of the way. You set up a new block of Rory and Cantlay and Paul Casey or something, and you run those three in another 25 lineups. Now you're starting to run this thing in kind of units or teams, and now you've got several different cores that are going to work across that money line together as blocks of 10, 15, 20, 25 lineups, as opposed to having to take a stand on all 150. If you were making 150 lineups, Why not do it in 4 or 5 units as opposed to one big unit? So there's a million ways to do these things. There's a bunch of ways to ask questions and discuss with gurus and coaches inside our community if you want to learn what way might be best for you or the pros and cons of several of these different methods. You'd ask this coach, talk to him for a little while, ask that coach, talk to him for a little while, and then start putting to weight the merits of what this guy said and what that guy said. These are the things that are going to make you a better player. Scrolling down to see what 50 lineups liked, I'm going to just look here right here at the exposure percentage, right? It loves Paul Casey this week, above and beyond everybody else. And if we have some projected ownership that will change throughout the week, somewhere around one of the chalkier plays, we might consider going underweight the field, in which case I would use some kind of a cap of my exposure on a Paul Casey and cut him at about half of the field. I might do the same thing for a Brian Harmon who's already going to be, I'm double the field with him at only 28%. I might like that. I might want to jack up that leverage. If I wanted to, I could also force him in to say 30% of my lineups. And the next run of this optimizer that I do is going to give me a minimum of 30%, which keeps him double, almost triple the field, and it cuts Paul Casey down in half of what the expected ownership might be if you don't want to be way overweight yourself. Again, these are theories, these are concepts that we talk about all the time with our members. And if these things make sense to you and you want to learn more about them, you need to become a VIP at dfsarmy.com. So just a quick run through how you might run that optimizer first naked with no setups. Spread those unique players way out so that you get really concentrated on the few guys that are repeating. Most of these guys are pretty balanced. It really loves Paul Casey. So I'm going to assume Paul Casey is going to be a rather chalky play this week. That's how I arrive at those conclusions. And if you want more details on this, like I said, coupon code CHOP, CHOP, and become a member at dfsarmy.com. We'll talk to you soon.